rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This will be the first meeting. No one has had to remind me to put the lapel mic on. Call the June 17 Marion City Council meeting to order and ask the commission or the council, anyone have any issues with anything on the agenda? And if not, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous, aye. With regard to the consent agenda, we'll do this the same way we've been doing it the last few weeks. We have, let's go through first with the minutes of the June 1st meeting. Anyone have any corrections or issues with the June 1st minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
And it says June 1st in the
June
agenda.
3rd.
I think it's actually June 3rd. So we'll change the agenda. Is there a second to the motion to approve the June 3rd minutes?
I'll second.
Actually,
Wait, it does say it's June 3rd.
the minutes say May 20th on them. At the very top,
Where?
or mine did.
Mine says June 3rd.
June 3rd?
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry.
Okay, let's just back up. I'm holding a copy of the minutes for the June 3rd meeting, which, does anyone else not have that?
I have it.
I do.
Okay.
No, I do, sorry.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I
All right, very good. So I have a motion. Did I get a second to approve? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We have warrants in the amount of $221,194.12. And we have payroll in the amount of $38,367.76. I would move that we, unless someone wants to separate those, I think we can speed things up and just lump those together. I'll make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. May financials, Janet Robinson, City Clerk, would you speak to that, please?
It shows that the May financials are in balance as of May 31st, 2024.
You're still digging, so I'm waiting to see if you're gonna, when you get somewhere, you're gonna say something more.
No.
No, okay. Anyone have any questions for Janet? Okay. Do we have, I'll move to approve the May financials. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Janet, what's the CMB license with regard to Bill and Essie?
Bill and Estes has applied for a CMB license for their restaurant that's getting ready to open.
Okay. Have you, is this what we've dealt with before? I've not, is this in the packet? I didn't see it if it was.
No, because I got late on Friday, it's right here.
Okay.
For application
That's
right
the form for the alcoholic beverage control, the same form we've been dealing with on other things?
This one's a little bit different.
Yeah, this is a little bit
CMB, the city issues the CMB license, so it
That's
does
true.
not
Sarah
go,
malt beverage, yeah.
doesn't,
Yeah,
it won't
okay.
go to the state.
How have you dealt with these in the past then, Mr. Vice Chair?
Ensured that they meet all of our requirements as far as distances from churches and schools and
Okay,
that thing.
so looking at the same things we have looked at.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
the process is the
Okay.
exact same.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether it goes to the state or whether the city has
Understood.
the approval on it.
Understood. Well, does anyone, we do have Megan sitting here. Anyone have any questions or concerns with regard to a cereal malt beverage for, what's that address?
301 East Main.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the cereal malt beverage license application?
I move we approve the cereal malt beverage application.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. And let's talk about the fireworks license permit. I asked Janet to put in the packet the current ordinance with regard to fireworks. There's nothing on the agenda about that. I just thought you might want to have it if you're not familiar with when the Marion has allowed the shooting of fireworks. If we want to change that, we can do it, but we would have to do it for 2025. I don't think we got the time to get the publication and do what we need to do it for this year. So just be aware of it. And we've got 3 applications to sell. Okay. And tell me, Janet, what do we have, that's kind of interesting because we've got the food truck on the agenda tonight. This is obviously not the same thing, but you have a application process for fireworks?
Yes, and it's a $200 fee. They have to provide insurance, pay their fee,
Okay.
and I think that's it.
And so
Fill
we,
out an application, of course, and you guys approve it.
yeah, and we've got wholesale fireworks, in TNM and NF explosions. You've, I assume, looked at those and they've crossed all the Ts, dotted all the Is.
And the fire chief will go out and inspect their tents once they're set up before they sell.
Okay, but we approve the license before the fire chief goes out? Okay. Anyone else have questions? Okay. Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve fireworks, wholesale fireworks permit for, a fireworks license permit for wholesale fireworks in TNM and NF explosions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. For those of you who may be wishing to comment on matters on tonight's agenda, let me first just run through a few things. If you haven't already silenced your phones, please do so. We are recording this, so if you have a question or you want to make a statement, you go to the desk right up front, you use the microphone, you don't have to put it in your hand, just pull it up close enough you can be heard on it, and you'll be able to make your statement. We are recording this because we do put it on the city website, and we put a link to it on the city website, and it's also available on Vive Cable Television, Channel 20. If anyone wants to watch city council meetings. When it is your turn to speak, come to the council table, use the mic, but don't yell out from the audience. I'm sorry this may be somewhat inconvenient, but we need to have some kind of order in the meeting itself. The items that really would be appropriate for comment at this portion, we'll have a section near the end of the meeting when you can comment about anything you want. But this is for matters that would be addressed by the council taking action tonight. That would include the zoning board appointment, the planning commission appointments, the KPP solar panel ordinance update. Probably you could talk about the industrial park lots if you wanted to, since that was discussed last week. We're not anticipating any action tonight. A lot of you, or some of you, may be here on the mobile food vendor ordinance. I'll just make you aware. I do want to hear what you have to say. And I mean, it's good that you're here if you're here for that purpose. I'm going to allow you to speak now if you wish to. I would ask that you consider waiting until I have an opportunity to address this issue with the council, and then you can make your comments after you've heard that later in the meeting. But if you'd rather do it up front, that's fine. With regard to the food vendor ordinance. The other matters, as I said, you're free to go. So if anybody wishes to speak now, just come on up and state your name, please.
Can I add one thing to that? We're not taking action. The food truck thing is
We are
for
not taking,
discussion only tonight.
we're not taking
Correct.
action, and generally, I would say, we're not taking action on it, you're not speaking on it, but I think people are here for that, and I want to give them that opportunity. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
You've got Mr. Case?
I was told I could speak at this time, although what I have is not on the agenda, I just want to give you money. Would that be okay?
Does anyone object to Mr. Case speaking to give us money? No. I hear no objections, Mr. Case.
All right, very good. Okay, so this is a time of year I like to come and give a little bit back. I'll just read this brief statement. Case and Son Insurance and the EMC Insurance Company are pleased to present the City of Marion with your proportionate share of the total group dividend for the 2023-2024 policy period under the KMU Safety Group Program. This is the 17th consecutive year we have presented a dividend check to the city for a total of $212,835. We are pleased to present this year's check in the amount of $10,087.65. Congratulations and thanks for your continued business.
Thank you, Mr. Case.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions for Casey? Since he's here, just we'll hit him up if you want to.
Stay right over here in case you do.
Okay, thank you, Casey.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If you want to come back with any more checks, we'll allow you to, Casey.
What's that?
If you want to come back with more checks, we'd let you do that too.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on any of the issues that are on tonight for action and the food truck one if you wanted to not wait till later? No one? Okay, very good. We will move on then. Zoning board appointment. Margot, you have the mic? Okay, would you turn it on, please?
Yes.
You are our zoning guru. We've got the zoning board appointment, and we have one opening, and that the nomination from the board is for Bill Lundy to continue in that role. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then number 7 on the agenda, Planning Commission appointments. We have Darvin Markley, Bruce Skiles, and Mike Smith. Tell me if I'm right. I think Darvin and Bruce are rolling over into subsequent terms. Mike filled out a partial term, an uncompleted term, and now he'd be getting his own first full term.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Council, at this time, I would propose to appoint Bill Lundy to the zoning board. Is there any objection to that action? Okay, let's just go ahead. I'll make that in the form of a motion. Would someone second it, please?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I also, unanimously passes. I'm also proposing to appoint Darvin Markley, Bruce Skiles, and Mike Smith to the Planning Commission. Anyone have any questions about that? No questions? I'll make that form of a motion as well. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous. Ayes have it. With regard to the Public Information Officer, we have to have someone designated as our Public Information Officer. Generally, that would be the city administrator. And we could appoint Mark, and Mark said he would take it, but we know that Mark is not here forever. And he also is not here every day, although anymore it seems like he is. But I would propose to appoint our city clerk, Janet Robinson, as the Public Information Officer. And I will say that at such time as we get a permanent city administrator, my intent would be to change that appointment to that person. But right now, I'm going to propose appointing Janet unless there's objection.
Mr. Mayor, that's been done by resolution in the past. Is that how you're going to do it this time around?
You want to come up to the microphone?
last person we appointed was Mark Skiles, and we did that by a resolution. Will you do this by resolution?
No, I'm making it a mayoral appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Brogan was the last one that was
Pardon?
appointed. Brogan Jones was the last one
Okay,
appointed.
thank you.
All right, I'm going to make that the form of a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any objection or discussion, excuse me? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. KPP solar panel update, and that also relates to ordinance 1511. Margot.
Yeah, I'm bringing a recommendation from the Planning Commission tonight. We've had our public hearing. We've had our 14-day protest period. And they are recommending that you approve a conditional use permit for a, it's actually for the city, because the city still owns the property at 326 Washington, for use as a 1 megawatt solar facility as designated in the zoning regulations of the city. And this approval includes the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the following conditions. The conditional use permit will be withdrawn if the property changes in use or fails to comply with all conditions. The property will be reclaimed and returned to original condition if the solar facility is removed. An operational agreement is to be in place between the city and Kansas Power Pool. An entrance to the facility must not landlock surrounding landowners. And this recommendation is based on Section 19 of the zoning regulations, noting number 24 for public utility, number 31 wind energy, and number 32 land use by the government. The reason I'm saying wind energy is we're not referring to solar in that chapter, but it shows intent for renewable energy. We go on to say that we also note Section 28-3 solar facilities and Comprehensive Plan 1-4.07 for land use areas, as this is the best fit so it does not become a blighted area with the railroad nearby with heavy industry, and the transfer station to the south, and 1-7.02 for compatible use with the city substation located directly across the road for connection of the solar field, making it a more cost-effective system.
Questions for Margot on behalf of the zoning board? Very well. The request is, or the recommendation is to issue a conditional use permit. We've visited with the people from Kansas Power Pool, and basically I think that the things that they committed to for the zoning board is consistent with what they told us when they were here originally. Is there a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve the recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve ordinance 1511.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Discussion or questions? Mark, I recognize that this was ongoing before, I think it was, before you came on board, but I know you've been on top of it as well. Any questions or issues or problems you're aware of?
I think it's a good deal for
Yeah.
the community.
Okay. All right, then, if no further discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous. Ayes have it. The next thing on the agenda is industrial park lots, and that indicates that I'm supposed to talk about it. I really don't have anything to say about it. We had, the county administrator was here last week. We had discussion of whether or not the city would sell a lot behind the building that the county owns at the commercial park that we have. The council indicated a willingness to accept an offer of $1,000 from the county for that lot. To the best of my knowledge, the county has not stepped forward to indicate that they wish to consummate that, any kind of a deal. So I don't think there's anything to talk about. But if any of you have any questions or comments, feel free. I'd hate to have an agenda item, go for one. All right, we're going to move on. Mark, roofing at the water plant.
You have a quote in your packet from Ray Roofing Company to fix the roof at the water plant. During the last few rainstorms, the plant has leaked. My understanding, the roof is over 30 years old, and we're hopeful that Ray could get it done by the end of the summer. That's a hope. And we'd recommend the option with the insulation at $22,955. It needs to be fixed.
Is there no insulation in the first offer? I mean, it looks, if I'm reading it right, it says with 2-inch insulation.
I did not talk to him personally. Jason?
What was the question, Mike? On the insulation?
Yeah, I'm sorry, not that big a deal.
No, currently there's none.
Oh, okay, well, a little would be better than none.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very good. So, Mark, your recommendation is, well, first of all, any questions of Mark?
I was down there today, actually, and the facility itself holds the water in a certain area, and so any leakage or any issues we have with the roof could affect, the quality of the system itself. So I think it's very important that the roof be functioning properly.
Was this the only bid we got? Just this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Have we previously done much work with Ray's Roofing?
I can't speak for Marion. They're very active in the area.
They did the school.
Yeah, they do a lot of work.
Guys, I did call around and ask a few others, but they pointed me to Ray's to have them come and do, that was kind of their forte, so.
But because it's more of an industrial type building?
Correct.
Okay.
And the style of building with it being a cinder block building, that was more in their wheelhouse than.
Well, we could roll this over to another meeting, which we've talked about on occasion to do, but I would agree that it's important that we start the process and get the roof fixed ASAP. So I'll make a motion that we approve the bid with the insulation at $22,955. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Ayes have it, 5-0. And we'll stay with you, Mark, with regard to the street project.
This is a concrete pavement curb and valley gutter on North Roosevelt from Denver to just north of Sherman. It's my understanding last year during your budget process that it was decided to do this road. I think you do a road a year or a block or two a year. And so this would be a continuation of what you've done up that way before. So we'd recommend the approval of the proposal. And it's out of your capital improvement fund.
So this was budgeted
Yes.
by the prior
There was a
council?
$100,000 budget, so there may be some knickknacks on this also, when
Okay.
they get into it.
I used to live in that block, and I can say that it is not in good shape. There's some concrete patches in there that'll dang near rip your axle out from under your car when you go over it, so.
You should slow down.
Trust me, I am.
So is that for 2 blocks then? Is that, or is it 3?
I think it's just the one block.
It looked like a block
One-
and maybe a quarter or something. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. The only question I had is, I assume we're gonna try and notify those homeowners, give them a little bit advance notice that, hey, we're gonna be coming in more than like a day of, hey, the street's coming out tomorrow. Can we give them some sort of heads up?
Yes, it'll all be planned, and notice will be given ahead of time.
Okay. The other thing I might ask is that we check the quality, I should check the quality of the alleys that those people are gonna have to be
Oh.
using. Because again, that one on behind where I used to live has some potholes that are pretty good size. So if they're gonna be using them, you think it'd be beneficial to look
I
at
think that's a
throwing
great
rock in
idea.
there?
Yeah, that's a great idea. They're gonna have some inconvenience, of course, they'll get a really good road out of it, but, when we got the alleys, it's our obligation to maintain them, so that's a good opportunity to take care of two birds with one stone, basically. Is that's not a problem, is it, Tim?
No, it's
Okay.
not.
Okay. Are you asking, Mark, for us to authorize the crew to go ahead and do this project? Is that,
That'd be fine, yes.
okay. Maybe we have a motion?
I move that we move forward with this proposal.
Is there a
to-
second?
Yeah. That's all.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion?
I should ask, how long is it expected to take for them to complete that walk? Did they say, or?
It could be 2 weeks, but then if we don't get, depends on the rain. If we get rained out, that'd delay, but I think in a couple weeks we could have it tore out and replaced if everything works right. And then then they want it to allow, it could be total of 3.
Right.
Because they want it to set 7 days. And then, but if things went real well, it could be less.
Okay.
This will be the third block on Roosevelt in the last year or two?
That's correct.
I want to go on the record that I live on Roosevelt, and all that was decided before I became mayor.
I'm gonna second that and say I do too.
Yes, could you
And
also?
I did not live there either, or did not, yeah.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, let's talk about mobile food vendor ordinances. Whoops, got the wrong one. So if I may, just a little bit of background to the council. The issue was brought forward by a merchant to more than one of us, I think, that other cities have ordinances that require permits for food trucks. We talked about that a little bit, and I think we agreed that it made sense to have that. As went through the process, I mentioned that we do have an article in our code that covers solicitors, canvassers, and peddlers. The city attorney suggested, and I did mention this in a prior meeting, that it would be better to have a section within that ordinance that's specific to mobile food vendors. So what you've been provided with is the section, it would be a new ordinance, but it would go into Article 2, Section 5-201 et sec to provide our total ordinance. Now, I'd like to point out some things that I think we need to get public input on as to what we want to do. If you go on the new ordinance, to the second page, and I don't by any means want to say that what I'm pointing out is exclusively what we might want to change, but these are areas I just want to point out because I thought they might be important. Under A1, movement required. Mobile food units are prohibited from remaining at a single vending location for more than 10 hours out of any 24-hour period during which vending from the unit occurs. And then underneath it, distance from restaurants, no mobile food vendor may vend on public or private property within 150 feet from a brick and mortar restaurant during such restaurant's posted hours of operation. And if you'll turn to page C, signage, you can read it yourself, but there's some real specifics as to what this ordinance would allow in the way of signage, lights, same thing. Accessory structures, unless otherwise provided in this section, no tables, chairs, or other accessory structures may be erected outside of a mobile food unit. I think, trash and recycling and restoration of site, that's pretty basic stuff. If you go on then to the next to the last page, the events that this would not apply to are Chingawassa Days, Old Settlers Day, Art in the Park, and the Farm and the Art Market, which is not a singular event. That's every Wednesday during the summer in the park. Now, I want to just make you aware that under the Article 2, Section 5-201 at SEC, the current code, that is what states out the requirement of a license and sets out the process and the fees and all that. So you're going to need to look in your code book if you want to see what our fees are. If you go, when you get an opportunity, to 5-207, we would charge a $50, and I don't know why it says cash, but that's what our ordinance says, $50 cash. That, which I think is, well, anyway, for the cost of the investigation that goes along with the application. And within this, the chief of police is the one that does the investigation. The current code would allow, it would be $10 a day, but in no event shall fees in excess of $100 be collected from a licensee during any 6-month period. So that would limit the food truck to 10 days every 6 months. Council Grove, this ordinance that we have is something I think of a form, probably from the league, because Council Grove's is very similar. And they have that same language, although I think they may have a different actual dollar amount. But anyway, it's very similar. But then their application form that I took from their website, their license fee is at $10 a day or $150 for a continuous 90-day period, which that's on their their form, but their ordinance doesn't permit it. But that's their problem, not ours. I'm just pointing out what other cities are doing. Our current ordinance that this ordinance would be subservient to also has an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Cutoff on it. My concern on that and some of this is that we have this, it's not snow cone, it's Hawaiian ice or whatever, but I'm going to call it snow cone truck that is, I don't know if it's permanently located, but it is long-term located on a lot beside Aunt Bee's nursery. And I think most of those that you see around anywhere they set up and they're one place for the whole summer. Now, the difference there is that owner lives in, I think, my understanding is lives in town. So we could certainly have an exception or some, I don't know if exception's the right word, but some changes with regard to if you've got somebody who lives in town. So that's the only things I wanted to point out, and I'd be more than happy and glad to hear what any of you have to say. At some point, we're going to have to get this on for a vote. It's not going to be tonight. I doubt that it'll be in 2 weeks, but I think, and I want to hear what the public has to say too. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, first on the movement of it, the way that it's written, would that restrict any mobile food truck from being parked in city limits?
Where are you at?
Movement requirements, A, Section 1. Mobile food units are prohibited from remaining in a single vending location for more than 10 hours of any 24-hour period during which vending from the unit occurs at such location.
So are
Once
you
you close
asking?
the doors, it can't stay there. But the thing is,
You can stay there for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Don't
It's just after that time, then you'd have to move to a different location.
Yes, that's how I read it.
so long as you're not vending, you can park it somewhere else. You just can't park in the same spot.
I think that's the way, yeah. Oh, I should have mentioned this,
Because,
by
for
the way.
instance, with the Salisbury Sweets, they are a mobile food truck, technically, with the city.
Yes,
Would a unit like that wouldn't be able to just stay parked there? You wouldn't be able to close the doors, it'd actually have to be moved.
well, that's the whole reason I mentioned it,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they have isn't a permanent location at Aunt Bee's don't they have an agreement with?
Well, they have an agreement, but that doesn't, they are still
Yeah.
a mobile unit, so.
Yeah. Brian being our city attorney, researched other cities' ordinances with regard to this topic. And these are kind of the hit parade of ones he thought we should consider. He's not making recommendations that we should adopt them or not adopt them. He just thought they were ones that were merited thought. So that's where these are coming from.
Mhm.
Don't all talk at once.
The second issue that I had you brought up too is the signage. You know, they're allowed a 4 foot tall, basically 4 foot tall by 2 foot wide A-frame sign is the largest allowed. Most food trucks, mobile vendors that I've noticed will a lot of times use those large 8 foot tall feather signs, you know, say, hey, open,
Oh, yeah.
barbecue, whatever
Yeah.
it may say. To me, those seem pretty standard in that industry to use, and I don't know if that would be something we should also consider allowing in addition to those requirements for that sign. I don't know if there's some issue with them blowing over or anything like that, that it wasn't brought up there before, but to me, that would be something too that's pretty standard.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on E under that, the accessory structures?
One thing that was mentioned was in the evenings when it's dark, if you just have lights providing lights to see the sidewalk and, you know, see your step and everything, does that fall under that too versus just a blaring light on your trailer saying what you are?
Well, I mean, I think you'd look at the intent. The intent appears to be that you can't have something flashing that's supposed to get your attention and wouldn't stop you from having a direct light on a sidewalk, but that'd be my reading of it. But
Okay.
what about the next one after that?
Accessory structures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I think to me, you're getting into a gray area there, right? Let's
If
take
it's private property, they can just say these are the.
That's what I mean, right? You're
It's
in a
a-
gray area, because like, let's take the snow cone truck, right? There's those picnic tables that are there. Whose picnic tables are they? Are they Aunt B's, or are they, right? Like, so how do you,
I could see on public property where it could be a different issue if you're on a public spot. It's restricting movement, traffic, that sort of thing, but,
Well, we can do it, but the question is whether we should do it.
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
So-
I mean, as long as, we'd probably have to say a reasonable number of tables and
Set
chairs or
a
something.
maximum number or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that according to this, that Bill and Essie's would be in violation. But I had to point out that building is not a food truck,
I don't think there's wheels on it.
not going anywhere.
The other one that the 150 feet, I don't know, to me, okay, is anybody gonna, one, I think it's just an arbitrary number that was just picked, right? So obviously, we have the ability to change it to either less than or more than that.
Yes.
But I don't even know that it would be required, right? If the food truck is parked 1,000 feet away, is it gonna stop somebody from going right to one or the other? I don't think it achieves anything.
Anybody else? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I see your mom over there. Of course, she's nicer than most of us, but if I came to town and said, hey, can I, I'm gonna use some parking spaces and I wanna set up right in front of Rachel's. I mean, it just seems like that, there's some fairness to the brick and mortar that's paying property taxes and that sort of thing.
I agree with that. Otherwise, you'd have somebody just sitting on them. And then what's the definition of brick and mortar? I don't mean to take over, but is it?
Well, I would have a very broad definition myself, which would be a permanent structure of some sort, that you go to that and that's where the food is. I know that I've heard people question whether, I'm sorry, that one place, that other place, that one place is a brick and mortar, because they cook in a food truck. I think it's brick and mortar, because that truck really doesn't move, and even if it does on occasion, they've got a building there that they serve out of, and it's got bathrooms and electricity and all that
Right,
sort of thing.
I agree with that.
Okay, so here's the things. Well, let me just add, I've been marking the ones that I want us to come back to. Not that I want us to, but I think that we should, because people have brought up issues. The distance one, I haven't heard anybody say that they were iffy about that. So that one just okay as is? I'm not voting other than, I just want to get an idea whether to bring it back up.
150 feet?
Uh-huh.
I'm iffy on it.
You're what?
Iffy.
You're iffy
You said
on
you
it.
haven't heard if anybody was iffy. I'm
Okay,
iffy.
so I'll keep that on the iffy list. And I've also got the signage, the lights, and the accessory structures. Maybe, does anyone,
You'd mentioned before, though, that the time frame that they're allowed to be open, was that when you were referencing what we currently have on the books, or what Council Grove was using, when you said have to only till 8 p.m.?
oh, that part, yeah,
'Cause that's not in this.
No.
I didn't know, is that currently on ours? You were just mentioning that was what
Yeah.
was
I'll find the
used by
section
other
here.
cities.
That is at Article 2, Section 5-208, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I mean, we would need to amend our current ordinance, but that's fine, we can do that. But that snow cone truck, I know, is open, I think, later than 8 p.m. in the summer when it's hot and little kids and teenagers are roaming.
Well, I was just curious, so that is on our books? on
That
our
is.
ordinance.
That
That
is
was my question.
That is the current
So-
rule, yes. Is that
I think we
iffy too?
Take a look at that.
I
Okay.
mean, if we're doing it all, I think
I'd
that
like to
should
see
be
us
taken
take a look
at as well.
at the, if we're going to existing, what's on the books, the fees that we would collect too. I mean, look at a daily amount, and then even like you said, Council Grove does 150 for 90 days. Maybe we look at doing some annual, right? If you want $10 a day, you come check Marion out for 3 or 4 times of setting up, and then if you want, you can purchase an annual license that would be similar in cost to what our, I don't know, maybe our business licenses are or something like that.
Okay. All right, so that, I think and I don't know, but I assume we'll have people speak to this in a couple of minutes here.
The tables thing was the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already marked it iffy.
You marked that as iffy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mention it, but the tables and chairs I marked as iffy as well. Is there anything else that anyone on the council wants to talk about on the mobile food vendor ordinance at this time? If not, I would ask the clerk to keep this on the agenda for next meeting, but it would not be on for action at the next meeting. I would want to have an opportunity for us all to review it and talk about it again. Mark, I never gave you a chance to weigh in. Did you have?
I think we covered it all.
Okay. Well, then the next thing is yours, the Mayor Specialty Service Maintenance Agreement.
This is an item, the city for at least the last several years has hired mayor to come clean out a third of your community in the sanitary sewers. It helps with your insurance rates, and also helps from sewer backups, root cloggage and things like that. So they have another proposal before you. It's up a little bit. I think this year we're paying 77 cents a foot. It could go up to 85. And it could be based on the number of linear feet they do, but they do good work, and they do a lot of towns in Kansas. And I commend you for doing it. A lot of towns don't do anything. Then all of a sudden they have to catch up when the roots get in there and all that. So we'd recommend that you renew it.
How much is it, Mark?
Well, it
It's
will
a fee
be
schedule, isn't it?
85 cents, 87, and
Oh,
89.
gotcha, I'm sorry, so we don't have a,
Yeah, I mean, they had
It's-
estimated
there you go.
the footage. You can
right there, you just went past it.
I went past it?
Yep, it's at the top of that page you're on right now.
Okay, thank you.
It gives estimates of,
Yeah, and that can vary
Okay,
a
I
little
see,
bit.
yeah. All right, so we're in the $20,000 plus range.
Yes.
Annually.
Yeah.
And what we'd be agreeing to is just for 1 year, because they have the next 3 years laid out.
Well, they had
Was
3
there-
years laid out, it's all, and there's a, you can always terminate within 30 days. If for some reason we want to
Gotcha.
terminate after a year, we could terminate.
Always terminate.
Okay. So basically, we would just be continuing what's been done for several years
I
here.
think you've done it six to, a couple of terms of this, is my understanding.
and do they do different sections of the city every
Yeah, they
year?
do,
So they just,
the town's divided.
gotcha.
I mean, you have the valley, the north, the south, does that sound right? And, so I
The
think they do
hill,
by
you forgot the
section.
hill.
The hill, okay, I'm sorry. So I think they do a section, about a third of the town every year. If Port Haven was a little bit bigger, I think we try to do a fifth of the town.
Questions, or do I have a motion?
Tim, I assume you're very on board with this, right? It seems like it definitely helps out our sewer system in the long run, right?
Yeah, we've been doing it several years, and as long as I can remember back, we've had them come in annually and do a third of the town, usually. And I think it pays off. It kind of can identify bad spots too for us. So much of it's cambered per year too.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we continue with mayor services for the sewer cleaning.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Very well. All in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, 5-0. Kind of a crappy portion of our agenda as we move from the sewer maintenance agreement to sale of the 1980 sewer jetter to the city of Florence for $5,000.
It's my understanding that you purchased a few years back a U-2009 sewer jetters, and we have a 1980. We didn't have a trade-in value for that. They suggested $3,000 to $5,000. So your options are to put it on Purple Wave and see if you can get on the internet market, or the city of Florence and contacted the city of Marion and would like to purchase it. And Tim thought $5,000 was the number that the company mentioned to him. So we'd recommend
My thought would be that if we can sell it to Florence and get close to what we would
Yeah.
get on Purple Wave, just good neighbor.
Yeah, help them out,
Yeah.
help out another
Well,
Marion
in
County.
addition, if you were to do it on Purple Wave, I'm sure there's a fee.
Yep, you're gonna pay a
involved.
percentage.
I have no idea what a sewer jetter does.
Jet sewers.
Jets
I
your
think.
sewer. Thank you, Kevin. Does anyone wish to make a motion or have any further questions on that issue?
I would make a motion to approve the sale of a 1980 sewer jetter to the city of Florence for $5,000.
Second?
I second that.
Further discussion? No discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay, for those of you who I appreciate have been waiting patiently, we are ready for public forum. This is time when you can come up and speak about anything you wish. Just come up to the table, have a seat in front of the mic, and we'll be glad to hear you. We got a lot of people, so I am probably going to impose the time limit. Here's the thing, that is a 4-minute hourglass. Our rules actually say you get 3, but that's going to be 3 minutes, so you've got an extra minute, use it wisely. So, anyone wish to speak, just come on up, tell us who you are and what you want to talk about. No one?
All right.
All right, somebody had to break the ice.
Don't start the timer yet. I'm not familiar with all of you. I'm Byron Lang. I live at the county lake. My wife and I do feel like we have a vested interest in the community and the success of the community. One of the things that we're both very adamant about is supporting our local businesses. And first of all, I'd like to say that I really question why the articles that we have in place for solicitors don't apply as they are in the books, to food trucks. I mean, I think it's a good thing that we probably add some things to it to specifically talk about food trucks, but as it is, and when I read this ordinance, I don't see why it does not apply the way it's written right now to the food truck situation. A couple of things, just questions for you all. One of the things that's in this proposed ordinance is 150 feet distance. You know, you get into situations where somebody's going to do everything they can to try to minimize that or question that. I would encourage you to leave the 150 feet in place and also get specific about it. That's 150 feet property line to property line, not door to door, so that you eliminate some of those ambiguities. It seems to me that some of these things, such as that, it makes me wonder why they're necessary. You would think that somebody with integrity would not set up a food truck in direct competition with somebody else. But in a certain situation that we have right now with a Mexican food truck, it certainly seems to be an in-your-face kind of a situation. Second thing I would encourage you to consider in your ordinance is that require some kind of insurance, whether it be $1 million liability, a little $1 million to the city, something of that nature. It's standard for most businesses. I don't see why you wouldn't apply it to this. Last but not least, something that troubles me is that we have a Mexican food truck that's been promoted by a local individual who is the only person that's profiting out of this. The food truck pays no property taxes, pays no real estate taxes, pays no city taxes, and since it operates on a cash basis, it's questionable that it's paying federal taxes. But that individual that's promoting this also sits on our economics or our whatever they call the board, which seems to be a blatant conflict of interest. And that's something that I feel that this council should also address. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do we do now?
We sit here for another minute.
Shake it. Get your phones out. Start
Well,
timers.
it'll take a while for somebody else to come up and have a seat, so if anybody else wants to speak, come on up and have a seat, tell us who you are, and then I'll flip the minute glass. You go ahead and get started. You'll get an extra whatever, and I'll turn it over after you're going.
Okay. Ruth Herbal, and I'd just like to say something about the fees. I checked out Hillsborough ordinance 13, I'll waste my minute here, 1394, and I encourage you guys to look at that. They're charging $10 a day and $50 per year, and I think that's a fair fee because we got people like Josh over here. If he has to renew his permit every 90 days at $150, that's money out of his pocket. We should support these local people. And then I would like for you to look at the definition on page 1, where it's on number 2, where it says it's talking about mobile food units. And it says self-contained vehicles, trailers, carts, and other type of convenience from which food or beverages can be served. Is this going to interfere with the people downtown, like the Girl Scouts that sells cookies off of a table? Are we going to make them pay a fee too?
That would certainly, I'll speak for the council, that's not the intent, but I do want to point out that we are in the extreme minority by not having and enforcing an ordinance on this. So I'm sure that other cities have the same thing. I doubt seriously they're charging the Girl Scouts, but that's something we could clear up.
Yes, well, I understand that we need to do an ordinance, but I think we need to keep it to the minimum for our local vendors. You know, I'm really concerned about them, and as far as 150 feet, I agree with Zach, because if you're gonna put a restaurant downtown, who's saying that you can't put one right across the street from the barbecue place? You know, we don't limit that, but we're trying to limit trailers. But that's something to consider. And I did go on the Kansas website, and there is 5 permits that they needed to have in place, like public health and food seller permit and so on and so forth. And I encourage you to look at that very closely. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Just go ahead, Josh, and state your name, and then go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Josh Teichman, chef owner, Tacos Food Truck. First thing I want to piggyback on what Byron said with the insurance. When we travel, we do have to add cities to our $1 million general liability policy. That covers them if something happens when we're mobile, you know, on their land, their property, wherever we're set up, city, street. The hoops we have to jump through, or they continue to add on even more and more, you know, fire suppression systems. Let's see, what else? Out of kind of common courtesy to small businesses when we go to other towns, I do actually communicate with them. You know, if the cafes are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, they will actually ask me to maybe go on those days. So I'm not taking away from their business when they're open for shop. So out of courtesy, we try to respect that. And I think it's kind of not great business karma to go set up in a small town right beside a direct competing business. Maybe that's just my business, you know, morals as a person, but we would never ever do that. We never have, we never will. We go into these other communities, we appreciate the support when we get there, and we actually try to encourage people to come back to Marion to check out our brick and mortar, which would have a more expanded menu. Come tell them to check out the lake. I was just in Salina this last weekend at the Smoky Hills River Fest. I met a lot of people, and I told them we're only an hour away. You know, come check out our lake. Come please check out our building. You know, my red food truck there, it does not move. It's actually hard wired into a gas line. It will not move unless if a tornado or something blows it away. But like Byron also said, I'm surprised that nothing has been followed through yet with what's already in place. I read some verbiage in there. I think it was one of the second to last sections, 5-213. After the receipt of the application, the city clerk shall verify with the business and surrounding businesses for approval to engage in something any kind from their vehicle stand, and failure to gain majority approval from the surrounding businesses shall be denial of the application. I mean, we, at this point on this taco truck comes 3 times a week. We are considering leaving town on Wednesdays when they're here because our business suffers. We pay a lot of taxes. We care about this community. And we're doing everything we can as business owners to be positive and move forward in a good direction. So please think this over and do what's right.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Hey guys, I'm Megan Jones from Bill and Essie's. Obviously, I think a lot of folks have been mulling this over about the mobile food vendor ordinance, and I had a couple of things that I was just kicking around in my brain that I wanted to bring to you guys that you might consider as you're discussing this as well. One of the things that I noticed, the classification of our ordinance that this is falling in, right now, I think is something important to take into consideration, because I think focusing on whether or not the business has wheels is not necessarily the point of the ordinance, so much as focusing on the fact that it's a transient business, a business that comes here, makes money, and takes that money elsewhere out of the community. And so while I think having like a daily fee is great, I think having a limit on how many days, consecutive days, or days within a amount of period that business is in town is a good idea as well. But I think it might be worth considering some sort of path towards exemption or something for businesses that are local businesses that are permanently here, but just happen to have wheels on their businesses, because they're not a transient business. That would include like the snow cone truck, the ice cream truck when it is ready. That would include tacos. These are businesses that are physically here. They're paying their taxes here in town. They are paying, you know, for their groceries in town, their utilities in town. One of my thoughts was being able to prove residence or have a 12-month lease for the business or something along those lines might be a consideration for some sort of path of exemption for our local businesses. Because I don't think the point is whether or not you have wheels. If that makes sense.
Don't leave. No one has really volunteered, so I'm just going to ask you. What would you see as a reasonable number? If someone can get a $10 a day permit, how many days should they be able to operate in a given period? Let's say a year, 6 months. You tell me. What do you think is reasonable?
I think it would make more sense to break it up quarterly, because I think that would be a little bit more manageable, both for regulating it and for doing the math in your own head. That's something worth talking about. I think a couple days a week would be more than enough for a business that is still transient. I think the whole point should be to encourage people to be here permanently. But if somebody is coming and going, I think to have them in town more than twice a week does put a lot of strain on the businesses that are permanently here.
I think a couple of days a week would actually be more than most of the other cities that I've seen would allow over a course of 6 months or a year or whatever.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Allison Teichman. I'm the owner and operator of Tacos Food Truck LLC. We have been in the mobile food industry for over 7 years. I want to first start out by saying that we are not trying to discourage mobile food vendors from coming to Marion. We started once as a festival traveling truck. We did events with Augie and Denny when we first started. We also did a handful of events at Lanning Pharmacy, and we also worked a handful of times at the old building where the new food bank is. In 2019, in 2018, we bought a home here. We started this business in 2017 in Olathe. In 2018, we bought a property in Marion and renovated it. So we've been in and around Marion since we started the food truck. In 2019, we moved into that house we renovated and bought that one place shortly after. In the 7 years we have been operating, we have learned a lot about our industry. Each city that we go to has their own set of requirements we must meet before we operate in their town. Requirements we have run into are provide proof of our driver's license. We get background checks on Josh and myself, and if we had employees, they would have to get cleared through the local police department. And I think that's a good idea because you want to know who's coming into your town. You want to see if they have warrants out for their arrest, if they say if they are who they say they are. I think that's a good thing to have. We have to provide our Kansas health permit issued by the state of Kansas. We have to provide our Kansas sales tax ID, proof of general liability insurance, adding the town and the address of where the vendor will be parked to the mobile we have to add the address of where we're going to park in the town to our general liability insurance. We have a daily or a yearly permit fee. We've run into days, times, and locations on where mobile food vendors are allowed to operate. And we have to provide a description of our food truck and pictures of our food truck. After we are cleared of all these requirements and have paid all of our fees, we are then issued a license from the city to hang in our window while we are operating in that town. We have more festivals than anything else when we do travel in the black truck. We then also pay festival fees and have contracts on operation when we are allowed to serve. On a personal note, as taco truck owners, we always try to be respectful to every town we go. We are asked not to come on certain days out of respect for other local businesses, and we do not set up next to competing local hometown business. When we operate in small towns, we go a few times a year. We truly make them pop-up events. For example, last year, we jumped through all the hoops and paid our $200 fee for the city of Abilene, and we went one time. When we go to Hillsborough to set up, we go a handful of times yearly. We are also involved in the Hillsborough community as we are members of their chamber. Everything else we do is festivals. As of right now, Hillsborough is the only town we have worked in that wasn't related to a festival. Tonight, I'm asking that Marion take some steps that most of the other towns that surround us already have that isn't damaging to the other 3 food trucks in town. That is home base, Salisbury Sweets, us, and Scoops and Sweets. And put restrictions on out-of-town transient vendors.
Before you leave, Allison, you said yourself, I should have or could have asked Josh, but you're here. What is a common or average number that most places will let you, number of days that they'll let you operate within a year or whatever time frame you want?
Okay, before Hillsborough just updated their policy, theirs was for 5 consecutive days for $50. When we talked to, I forget his name.
The city of Matt.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah. We told him that we would never go to the same town 5 days in a row out of respect of, that's just, in my opinion, it's unheard of to go 5 days in a row. Like I said, with Abilene, we went one time. We do have permission from, and since we've already jumped through the hoops again this year, they did lower theirs from $200 to $100. So that was positive. But we just don't go that often. If we're asked, we'll go check it out. But we do have permission from a local vendor in Abilene to go set up there. But again, they asked us to only come on Mondays when their hometown restaurants are not open. So, in my opinion, we don't go to a city maybe 5 times a year, the same city. Like even Hillsborough, we go there maybe 5 times a year. And like I said, we truly make it a pop-up event and not a habit of going there. But we also have our brick and mortar here, so.
But would the license that you, or the permit, whatever they call it, that you get at the average place?
That would be a question for Josh.
Okay, well, Josh, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna break the rules because you talk loud. What would be the average, I guess, or a ballpark?
Most cities, when I'm applying, they have an option for a daily permit or a flat fee for the full year. I usually, because I'm jumping through all these hoops, I usually just sign up for the full year.
That's not what he's asking. He's
No,
asking like.
That actually kind of is. Would that allow you to come every day that year then if you wanted to?
Technically it would, but as I just told you guys
Yeah.
a little while ago,
I understand.
that's not the way we operate.
I understand you're talking about the norms and the ethics of it. I'm just wanting to know what you're seeing at other places.
Technically, yes. Technically, if you had that full year permit, you could go set up shop there every single day if you desired.
Okay.
Are there communities that you go to that they do, that they do say you can only be there, whatever, 2 days a week maximum?
Council Grove.
Council Grove, for instance, I've done one pop-up event there in the past. It was in November. That's the last time I went to Council Grove. I'll be there this coming week on Thursday through Saturday, but that's for a festival, or swimming days. I usually work with local businesses there, like the brewery in town, and they don't want me there all the time. It's like a once every 6 months type of a special event.
Right.
And Council Grove has their own taco vendor now, mobile vendor. That.
Going back to the Abilene, I actually have permission from your friend, Greg is his name, I believe.
Right.
He gave me permission to park on his spot, but he specifically asked me only come on either Sunday or Monday out of respect to the local, not the corporate, the McDonald's type places, out of respect to the local mom and shop, restaurants. So,
Sure.
the last thing we want to do when we travel into these other towns is upset the locals that are working hard to provide a service for their community. I'll be honest, I'm a little frustrated that this other taco truck has been here probably 45 times since March. I think I've looked on and kind of tracked it. My business does dip. Jared Smith from Gambino's is not here today, but their business is down on days when they're here. I look across the street at Subway. Their parking lot is not as full. So that's excessive for someone who doesn't live here, pay taxes here, donate to the schools here.
I think a big city, it wouldn't matter if you want me to go back up there?
Well, I think you guys have had way over your 3 minutes, and I've let that go on. But the point, you have a group here that has indicated a desire to adopt an ordinance to regulate food trucks. It seems like you're trying to convince us to do it. I think we're going to do it. It's just a matter of what are going to be the provisions within it. So, anyone else want to speak about that or anything else? Oh, I thought you were leaving, Rachel.
We're not that lucky.
Okay.
I'm Rachel Collett. I own CD Baked Goods downtown. I've been in business for 8 years now. First of all, a comment was, I believe I heard that this ordinance talks about that mobile food trucks wouldn't be in competition with other businesses in town during their posted business hours. Did I hear that? Something about posted business hours?
I think you did hear something about posted business hours, but I don't think it was that they would not be in competition with them.
Well, here's a frustration of mine. Posted business hours in this town don't exist. And I'm just saying that, and I know I was recently closed. I've always had posted business hours. It was Tuesday through Friday. Now it's going to only be Wednesday through Friday, but I will guarantee you that if it says Wednesday to Friday, unless I've posted 2 weeks ahead of time that I'm going to be on vacation, I'm going to be there Wednesday through Friday. I can tell you many times I drive through this town on a Saturday night and want to go to get something to eat. Well, they're not open tonight. They're not open tonight. And as far as competition, I think competition is good. If another beer vendor wants to come to town, more power to them. More power to them, because it makes me be a better person and a better business. I didn't even know this was on the agenda tonight, I have to tell you. I just came here because I've not been to a council meeting and I wanted to come. I didn't know this was on the agenda, so this is all off the cuff. But I don't think competition's ever a bad thing because it keeps us on our toes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to leave until nobody wants to come up to that table, so I guess I could say going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the input. I think it's a good discussion. And council, take a look at your code book. Again, it's Article 2, Section 5-201. And I think that probably what needs to happen is we can come back and I know Brian will put together whatever we want. We just need to tell him what we want in it. So, all right, we will move on then to counselor and department and staff reports. Mark, anything from you?
We have our first budget meeting next Monday night, and Scott Lloyd will be here, 6 o'clock, I believe.
Yes, 6. I'm doing work in Salina that day, and this got scheduled after I was already set up, so I asked to push it to 6 instead of 5, and they could accommodate, so sorry about that. Anything else? Janet, anything from you? The guys in the corner? Nothing? Okay.
I
Amy?
think they do.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Tim stopped down earlier today, and we got to visit just a little bit, just briefly, but just an update. We are moving ahead with some really exciting things down there at the water plant. As of this week, we have concluded the hawk installation of all the new equipment that was down there. It's up and in service. Hopefully, middle of next week, we hope to have that actually all online as we move forward with the new stuff. Maybe possibly another month to 2 months, like to have you all come down and check it out. I'm pretty excited. I'm stoked. We've done a lot of hard work down there, Jeff and Dwayne and I, and we're nearing the point of getting ready to show it off. So we're pumped.
Seriously, Jason, when you're ready, yell at us. I'd love to come down.
Yeah.
No, we absolutely intend on it, and I'm looking forward to getting to that point.
Anyone else? Okay, back to you, Amy.
Well, this past week I met with Lloyd, Davey, is it Davey's? I
Yeah.
can't remember his name, right? Just kind of to go over a refresh of the city website, and I will be meeting with him again this next week. He has to kind of check on everything and look, but just maybe clean some things up and kind of get some ideas on what we need on it.
Go ahead, tell him what he told you.
He's going to make it Mayor Powers friendly.
Which basically means idiot
Like
proof.
5-year-old friendly. Be really big
5-year-old
icons on there.
Large point font.
Large point font. And that's pretty much all I have.
Zach,
I don't have anything.
jump down to you, Tim.
No, I don't have anything. We've covered it all tonight.
I don't have anything.
I really have one thing, and I'm sorry, but it will take a while because I think it's important. Like many of you, I assume, I read the article in the paper with regard to the Marion water plant, and well, I've got it here. Marion water quality violations appear hidden. When I read that article, and I got that article, I was given an opportunity to read it on Tuesday last week before the paper came out on Wednesday. And it was late in the afternoon that I got a chance to read it, and any comment that I wanted to make was needed to be made very quickly because they go to press on Tuesday night. So obviously there wasn't much I could say other than what was quoted in the paper, which is that I was certain that no one on this council or city administrator had covered anything up, and that we would definitely take a look at it and report back on what we found out with regard to that issue and Marion water quality. So I was able to make contact with the people from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, specifically the section chief for public water supplies and the unit chief for public water supplies. And I talked with both of them last Friday morning by, it wasn't Zoom, but it was a video connection. Had Mark and Tim Makovec, city superintendent, and Jason Wheeler, the water superintendent or director, there with me as we spoke. But I didn't, Tim tried to say something one time and I wouldn't let him because I had questions I had written down and I wanted to have answers to. And so what I'm going to do is simply keeping in mind that I wrote down their answers, and I'm not a stenographer, so I can't give you a word for word, but I tried very hard not to mischaracterize any of their answers. The thing that I prefaced to them was that I felt like someone reading the article could get the impression that there was some safety issues with regard to Marion water. And I recognize the article was maybe more primarily directed to the violations and whether those violations were properly given notice of. But I still think that people have a right to know that the water's safe to drink. So I addressed first to the chiefs that what were these major violations that we were apparently guilty of. What I was informed was that it was that our testing reports were not submitted on time. Not that we didn't do testing, but that we didn't submit our reports on time. That would be for April, May, June, and July of 2023. That was roughly a year ago, of course. Most of this council was not on this council at that time. But I then followed up with that about, I asked the city staff who were there, and they explained that those violations, when the reports didn't get to the Department of Health and Environment on time, came about at a time when there was, as one might expect, kind of a perfect storm scenario. We didn't have a certified plant operator at that point in time. KDHE knew that and was working with us on it, and we were legal and all that, but they also had some staffing issues. The city was using an out-of-state company for the testing kits that we used, and we couldn't get the kits from them. The state was aware of that, but nevertheless, when we did finally get the kits and get the samples sent in, they were late. And that happened over a course of 3 to 4 months. We got dinged for 4. There's some, I guess we wanted to argue, we could argue about one of those. KDHE told me that I asked the question whether this is unusual, and they told me that communities have violations like this all the time. The city posted its water quality report on our city website under news. I asked whether that met KDHE requirements. The answer was yes. They did recommend that we increase the size of the little notice on our water bill, which if you look at your water bill, you might see that. I checked on that today. Mark did as well. Actually, we can't increase the size of it. But what I want to do, and this actually was, Amy and I were discussing this before this came up, was to have things like that, have a separate icon, button, tab, whatever you want to call it, on the website. So you want to see our water reports, you go to the little thing that says water reports and you click it. I asked them about the Amazon Web Services reference that was made, because the way that read, it sounded like there was something sinister or crooked, weird about that. I asked if they could give me any insight into it. Their response was that it's just a server, it makes no difference, that in this particular case, the Kansas Rural Water Association uses Amazon as their web services provider, and the Rural Water District was involved in Marion Water, and that's how this server got involved. I pointed out that there was an inference made with regard to something weird or strange or maybe illegal about the fact that Jason Wheeler was listed as the contact person on the KDHE March 8 water quality report, but when the report was posted on the city's website, Tim Makovic was listed as contact person. My question was, does KDHE care? The answer was no. Contact persons are changed all the times on cities' reports. Tim is the guy where the buck stops on his desk. Question, is Marion delinquent or non-compliant on informing the public of our annual water quality report or submitting anything to you? Answer, no, Marion is in compliance. Question, were the type of violations referenced in the article unusual? Answer, no. Question, based upon meeting testing standards, is Marion on any kind of probation or watch list? The answer was no. Question, based upon meeting public notification requirements, is Marion on any sort of probation or watch list? The answer was no. I followed up with, so do you have a naughty list? And the answer was yes. And matter of fact, one gal held it up and said, this is it right here. And I said, so that's communities or water providers that you're going to watch especially carefully. That was said. They said yes. I said, is Marion on that list? They said no. Question, does KDHE have a reason to doubt or be concerned about the quality of water the city of Marion is providing its customers? The answer, no. Question, when KDHE feels there may be a water safety issue that would pose an immediate risk of illness, what can and do you do? Answer, they would issue a boil advisory order. Question, was a boil advisory order issued for Marion any time in the past 2 years? Answer, no. I just picked 2 years. I could have picked 10. I don't know what the answer would have been, but 2 seemed far enough. Question, did the reporter ever ask if the Marion water was safe to drink? Answer, no. She mostly posed hypotheticals. My conclusion, Jason Wheeler is now the director of the water plant. He's a certified level 2 plant operator, which is what is required to operate the water plant in a city the size of Marion. He is continuing to receive additional training. I would expect at some point in time he will be qualified at a level higher than level 2. The other 2 employees at the water plant are also receiving additional training. It is my hope that at some point in time we may have 3 that are certified at our level, and that would be a real coup if we were able to get that. We will do what we can to improve our website and the noticeability. I looked it up, that is a word, of our notices with regard to our water plant and our conditions and our reporting to KDHE. But we meet KDHE standards. I just wanted to make that statement. Anything else from anybody on the council? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion second, and all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.